thought I
Okay.
should mention that just in case.
Everybody be on your best behavior. Remember, you can be seen. All right. So I wonder if you would begin by praying with me as we get started. Our gracious God, though the wind blows and the rain falls, we know that we are enveloped and embraced by your love and your grace. Your providence is as faithful as the tide is on the sand, and as expansive as your creation. We thank you for the wonders of technology, that we can come together across miles, that we can reconnect through so many different places and moments in life. And we thank you for all the ways that you are continuing to work in and through the church and into the world. And we pray that your Spirit would make her presence known this day as we are trying to see what it looks like to be your church in this new and challenging time. Help us to not confuse your message with the latest fads or technology, for your word transcends all of it. These things we ask, O God, in your holy name. Amen. All right, so I thought we would do three things, but with a group this size, I am absolutely open to you all saying, hey, I need help in this direction instead of this direction, and I will do my best to keep up with you. But my thought is that we would talk a little bit about best practices as we're teaching on Zoom and online and those kinds of things, and making sure everybody knows like basic tools of Zoom. You know, are you using Whiteboard? Do you know how to do breakout rooms? Or, you know, and then I've got a wakelet of that showcases some curriculum that is particularly adaptable to teaching virtually. And then want to answer any of your questions, but I think we're the size that just interject your questions as we go along. Don't feel like you have to hold them to the end. And then if you want, this is, you know, totally up to you, but I've discovered a couple of free and really great, easy to use technologies that kind of spice up some teaching online. I've become a little bit zealous about one of them, which you'll get to encounter when we talk about curriculum. You know, those new converts, they're just so, you know, on fire. So how does that sound for a direction? Okay. All right. So so here's some things that I think we probably all know, but they bear repeating when we're moving from there are things we take for granted in face-to-face encounters of teaching that we don't think to translate or to reconfigure for teaching. So I think the first thing I want to say is, because I have gotten requests about it, is how do you do Sunday school with 2-year-olds on Zoom? And the answer is you don't. The answer is you do relational things with children. So it's important to look at the American Academy of Pediatricians recommendations on screen time for children. And the recommendation is truly no screen time for 18 months and younger. Now, the exception to that is if they are interacting with a person and not interacting with a video, not singing along, but if there is a person, so if their nursery worker is on Zoom talking to them, if their caregiver is on Zoom talking to them, then that doesn't count as no screen time. Over 18 months, 2 years, so from about 18 months or 2 years until 4 or 5 years old, the preference is no more than an hour a day, max 2. Now, when I became a single parent within a span of about 4 days with a 2-year-old and an 11-year-old, I had no idea how difficult it was to get dinner on the table with a 2-year-old tugging at your leg while you're by a stove where there are really hot things on there. And all of my lofty ideals about no more than 1 hour of screen time a day for a 2-year-old became watch Cars for the 420th time so I can get dinner on the table without scalding you. So, we have to keep in mind that these are the recommendations, and then there's reality. So, some of our parents will be purists, and that's fine. And if you can make that work in your household, great. Some will not. Some will try to adapt along the way. So when we're figuring as faith educators, when we're trying to decide what we need to offer and when we need to offer it, we're having to take in account the amount of time that those parents are going to realistically have to have some screen time in order to get work done. And that's going to include things like if parents are working from home now, because then that, and then you've got, your elementary age children and even kindergarten who are doing, class online now. And the reason for that, the reason that they, that they've been so clear about these guidelines is because brain research, particularly our functional MRIs that we have the ability to do now, have shown us what happens when there's too much screen time. So the way in which I try to talk to parents about this is in the first 3 years of life, the interstate system is being created in a child's brain. So all the pathways for later education and spirituality and knowledge and understanding and wisdom, all of those things that are going to travel through and across an interstate system are getting laid down in these first 3 years of life. And too much screen time slows down construction. And so there's not just implications for the child now, but there's lifelong implications for what's happening with the brain and with screen time. Now, that's not to say that that you can't make up for it or those kinds of things. But if we're talking about what's optimally best for our young children, that's what we're talking about. So I think, if for folks who want to do something with our youngest disciples, then I think having a time when there's a story, having a time when you can call them by name and they can see your face and you can speak to them, that is going to go far further in the development of their relationship with you, with the church, and with Christ than whatever craft you think you want to try to do or whatever, dancing vegetable that please don't use. It might be out there. It's always one of my favorite things to do at PC is just bust the Veggie Tales bubble for my students. That and the Giving Tree. They were like, oh Lord, you've ruined me forever. I'm like, no, I haven't. Just make that stuff go away. So that's our youngest ones. But you know what? The wisdom of that is so true across the ages, that what our people are yearning for right now is a sense of connectedness, is community, and is feeling like they're not isolated. I have, as someone for whom sacramental theology in the Reformed tradition is incredibly important, and one of my deep passions. Yes, Chris, absolutely belonging. I have really struggled with this whole, folks who do communion virtually and folks who want to do baptism virtually. And, I have a little running grr with the Office of Theology that put out their recommendations not too long ago. I disagree with them, but hey, I'm sure they're smarter than me. But what I discovered was, I kind of resisted taking communion in this virtual time back in the spring. I was like, no, I don't think I can do that. And then we got to the Sprint lectures, and the person who was preaching and leading worship was a former student and a dear friend of mine. And I thought, I need to not be on my high horse about this. And, I need to let this. So I thought I would try it. So I baked my bread and I got my wine, and we did it, and we came to it. And I will tell you, I'm a person who lives by myself. Well, that's not true. I live with my dog. But, pretty much I live on my own. And there's not been a single time throughout this whole pandemic that I have felt alone or disconnected. Solitude has been just a dear gift until I took communion. And then the most pervasive feeling of isolation and disconnection happened. And I think it's because I know what communion is supposed to be, and I know what it feels like when we're together around the table. And it just drove home for me more how very, disconnected we can be. And it helped me understand even more why we must be tending to those relational moments whenever we can. So yes, have Bible study with youth, with children, with adults, but build in time for the connection, for the touching base. Create, one of the best things that we can do is create space where people feel like they belong, where people feel they're in a trusted and safe space, where their sharing will be held in close heart and will be held in confidence. And so that is as much as valuable as whatever great wisdom you are about to impart. And that's not to say we don't have great wisdom, because we should, because I promise you that they're finding it somewhere. And if we are not giving them solid Reformed message about the Christian life, about the way in which we approach Scripture, about interpretation, about theological ponderings, about what is the meaning of what's going on in the streets, they're going to find it someplace else. And we might not want our folks to be nurtured in that particular belief. Is there a limit to the size or number of folk on a Zoom? That's interesting. So Lauren and I are in this group, and ours is the largest group. The others are running between kind of 6 and 8 in a group. And we have 11, 12 with me. And when we started out, I was like, oh yeah, no, that's no problem. A group of 12? That's nothing. And for some things it's not. But for deep, personal, searching conversation, 12 is too many. So we have done much better when we've done breakout rooms. So does everybody know how to use breakout rooms on Zoom? Yes. Okay, so we
I've
don't
never done it, but I'm aware it's there.
Okay, so it's easy peasy. If you are and this is the thing, if you are the host, then what will show up at the bottom of your screen, where it says share screen, chat, participants, record, all of those things, there'll be a box with 4 little squares that say breakout rooms, and you click on that, and then you can decide if you want to have 1, 2 rooms, 3 rooms, 4 rooms. So you can tell it how many rooms that you want it to have. Then you have a choice as to whether or not you assign the people manually to a small group, or whether you ask Zoom to do it automatically. And sometimes I am fine with automatic, and then sometimes I know kind of personalities in my students of who's gonna takes the stage and hang on to it as long as they can, and so I will assign them based on kind of what I know about them. The other thing, so when that comes up, you'll see at that window, so a window will pop up and ask you how many breakout rooms you want. Then you'll see a little thing that says options. And in the options, you can tell it how long you want those breakout rooms to be. So do you want them to be for 10 minutes? Do you want them to be for 20 minutes? So you set that. And then you hit, kind of the go button, and it sends them to the breakout rooms. Now, I don't know about you, but there are times when I've got, table groups talking that they get all excited, and it's hard to get them to come back together. And that will just bust a schedule like nothing else will. That's a nice part about Zoom, is if you've told it 20 minutes, it brings them back in 20 minutes. But it will also give them a 60-second warning. So it'll pop up and say, you have 60 seconds, and it'll count it down, and then it'll bring them back. The other thing to know about breakout rooms is if you want to assign them, okay, that'd be great, Debbie. Oh, wait, I caught you. You sent me a message, and then I caught you with your mouth full. Sorry. The thing to remember about breakout rooms is that if you want to assign them to a particular group, you want to make sure that they have to be on. Now, there is a way that you can pre-assign. All right. Can you go down to the bottom of your screen where the little icon is?
I know, for some reason I lost my my Zoom screen. Hold on.
Well, that's because you're sharing. So no, go down to the little icon at the bottom, all the way down.
Down here?
Down across the bottom of your Mac, where your docking stage is.
Oh, right here.
Right there. Click on that. Huh.
I know.
Yeah, I don't think you can share the borders around in Zoom.
I've done it before, though.
You can, if you've gone into the room management and set it up that they can see your controls.
Sorry, we'll go back to I don't want to,
That's okay.
Sorry.
No worries. The other thing is if you make me a co-host, I might be able to do it.
I don't think so, Craig, and Foster and I went through this yesterday. I'll make you host.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
All right, now I have breakout rooms. So I'm gonna share. Let's see if can you see my breakout rooms?
Oh yeah.
Okay. It's a setting in your management tool. So you can tell it, you want 2 rooms, 3 rooms, whatever. You can also tell it that you want to do manually. And if that's what you want to do, you hit create breakout rooms, and to assign folks. See, you've got a list of everybody that's on here. And then you would go through and assign the folks you want to that room. Click over here, the folks you want to this room, and then this will tell you who's there. Now over here is that options I was telling you about. You see that? Oops. All right, so it is set, it remembers what you said the last time you did breakout rooms, because, and this is 40 minutes is what the group Lauren and I are in. That's what well, that's how much time they get in small groups. And so you decide what you want there. And then when you're ready, you hit open all rooms and it sends people to the breakouts. Now, let's say somebody comes in late and you wanna, you wanna switch some folks up. So you can come in here and take Allison off and then come down and add Allison someplace else. So you can move her here. So you can move all that around and it will help you have some more kind of control over it. And you can set it up. So you can say, you know, the color of compromise group, or you can say, you know, name your groups, whatever, that kind of thing. All right? Make sense? All right, while we're looking here, does everybody know about reactions? At the bottom, usually next to your breakout, you can clap. Yep, Chris has got it. Now, these are new, we can celebrate. It's funny, they don't have a thumbs down, they only have a thumbs up. So lots of things to do. I'm trying to think what else you might want to know. Your sharing screen, does everybody know about the whiteboard? You know, okay, all right. Yes, Debbie. You're muted.
I was just you see, you called on me. I just learned how to use the hand raising.
Oh, yeah, okay, there you go. Yep. That's right. That's right.
Which automatically bumps you to the top of the list. So if you're in a large meeting, which, you know, I learned that yesterday, so I had to show off.
And so good, you should, because it's not showing off, it's teaching. So the way you get to that is either through the participants. So you as the host can come through and do that. You can also raise your hand up here in this top little, in the little bubble corner. That gives you lots of options there. So the way you get to the whiteboard is you hit share screen. Okay, do you see what I see? You see the whiteboard right here? So you can't see it. You won't be able to see the whiteboard until you hit share screen and you choose your whiteboard and then you share. And then all of these are your controls. You can choose your color. If you want to type, you have to hit the text button and then you do kind of, this is how you type. And you can move it around. You can erase it. You can draw. You can put in, you know, all these different kinds of things. I want to move this. I hit select and move it around. I can highlight something and choose the color of the highlight. You can undo, redo, clear the whole thing, and then you can hit save. But it also, know that it also saves automatically when you are finished, if you're the host. When you get off of Zoom, if you are recording, it will automatically download your record. anything that's in the chat will automatically download, and your whiteboard will automatically download if you're the host. I messed up the other day because I was in making notes and I was not the host, and I thought, oh, I don't need to get that out of chat because I'm the host, and lo and behold, it didn't say because I wasn't the host. So so those are some things. Yes.
What are you using the whiteboard for? I
So
can take some guesses, but just, yeah, if you'd share a little bit.
All right, so if we're doing, I use the whiteboard exactly like I use a flip chart. So if if we're doing a group discussion and I say, so if I've sent folks off to talk about covenant, and each group has one of the covenant biblical texts. When we come back, I'm like, okay, what themes did you see? And as they are, I missed somehow, I'm not getting I didn't get your chat, Allison, about be careful something. So as they're coming back and I want to pay attention to themes, I'm typing. Okay, someone says, well, I noticed God's always in charge, so I've typed that up. Somebody else says, it just seems like it's unequal power, and I'll do that. So sometimes that's what I do. I have been known to play Pictionary on Zoom with the whiteboard, and if I share host capacity with one person from each group, then they can draw on the whiteboard. So I've done that before. When we were working on the Presbyterian Outlook curriculum and we're brainstorming through kind of what we would use in proposition statements, we used the whiteboard to kind of get that all out there. And then I was able to save the whiteboard. And when I was writing the proposition statement, I had all those notes. So how else have others used the whiteboard? Or can you imagine how others would use the whiteboard?
Yeah, just as you said, you could start with drawings. One thing, read the Bible story, as we have done. Read the Bible story and add one quick drawing, and then invite each person to add their own, and so that it becomes a picture, just like that.
That's great.
But they know exactly how to use that. And if you do not, I'm telling you, if you do not change the setting, you will be trying to do your thing and you can't get them off. So it's funny and they love it, but they keep going and going and going.
Yes.
Like stop. So anyway, there's a setting for that.
There is a setting for that. Get to know your get to know your the settings that you can access in. So let me show you here. I'll share my screen. Let's see. I think this will help me. No, that's not going to get me where it wants. Yeah, you've got remote control up here as to who can control the mouse and who can annotate and all of these lovely things. Yeah, and be careful how you set down here. Let me share. When you're the host down here under advanced sharing options, you can say all participants can share. And if you have multiple participants can share simultaneously, and you have children or youth in your group, oh, I promise you, they know way more than any of us do about this. And they are very excited to show you what they know and how to outsmart you. So just know that you want to pay attention to those settings so that you are getting the effects, you are setting the parameters of that group experience and not some of your more amusing and creative partners in crime, I would say. They really are funny. They really are. But they know far more than we do. So I find Zoom to be, really a great tool. And part of the greatness about the tool is this thing that we're doing right now, is we can have a conversation about it. It's not asynchronous offline where I'm having to put it in a chat and then I have to come back and answer the chat, and it's all in text and those kinds of things. All right, before I move us to some curricula, what other questions might you have for best practices or time together or Zoom or anything like that? Okie doke, pretty quiet. All right.
I said crickets.
Crickets, absolutely. All right, so yeah, Ann?
Rebecca, I've got a question. It's a logistics question. When and we're not very far into the year. We've only had one Zoom class, but I found it awkward to go back and forth between the screen and asking them to look at their materials and report back and stuff like that. I mean, obviously we're looking up a Bible passage and it's kind of a back and forth thing. Do you have any tricks for keeping everybody's attention and keeping that on task? I mean, we tried, giving them time limit. Okay, we're going to have 2 minutes to do this and try to keep everybody on task. I'm talking about 8th graders.
Yeah. So I think that, I think the breakout rooms can help with that, especially if you can keep, you give this, and especially if you are designating who's in what groups. So, we all know, we all know an Anna George who's going to keep the group on track. And so you put them in that. I think working in groups helps. I think that sharing your screen as much as you can. So if you had all of the texts on a single sheet that you can scroll through, that they can see, and you can do it as a group, that can keep them kind of more together. And the other thing that I'll say, because I've had folks who say, well, what do I do about discipline? How do I discipline a group? And I'm like, you don't, not on Zoom, because it's not like you can reach, most of us, if we've got a rowdy one, we just put a hand on their shoulder, or we just walk over and stand beside them. And you can't do that through this screen. And so I think the best way to discipline is to think through ahead of time how to keep them engaged in the most, in the way that they can the most. I'm not one for competitions, but if there's a way in which you can make this about kind of teams pulling ahead and things like that, that can help keep interest. For some groups, you'd be able to do some work ahead of time, but I think if you're going to keep everybody, if you're worried about keeping everybody on task, probably having as much whole group, unless it's like 20 people, then absolutely send them into breakout rooms.
Okay, one follow-up question. I don't mean to hijack the whole conversation.
No, you're fine.
What is the best way to, you said have the information on screen and scroll through it. We used PDFs and put them up, but then what happens is you only see 2 or 3 students because you've got this big thing. What way do you like to share? Like if we were writing out the Bible verses to read on the screen, what way would you do that?
Okay, so I'm gonna share screen again. Up here, you see my controls up here? So you can come up here through how you're viewing. Oh, see, because I'm the one sharing, you can't see. You see where it says view up at the top? You can make it side by side. You can also make your screen, make the part of the screen that's projecting your text smaller, make it like 1/3.
Okay.
And then if you put them, if you put them in gallery view, then what happens is when you share the screen, no, that's not going to work. When you pull the screen over, you can have double rows. So you can see more of them.
Okay.
Than if you've got it either in speaker view or if you have it in where it's kind of what you're projecting is everything. So also if you get rid of the participants piece, you can close that out. The other thing, I don't know if you saw there, is see this where it says pop out? Then you can bring that over and you've got more screen.
Can you force side-by-side mode so that or do they have to choose that in that view options thing? Does the host make it be that way in my settings?
You can't, that's a good question, Chris. That's probably a Vaughn question. There's enough things that I know, and then there's things that I have to go to Vaughn for. I think you can't control somebody else's view on the screen, on their screen, but you can control how you see and how many people you see.
You can choose a spotlight.
You can.
Mode.
So if you are doing a webinar or you are doing something where you want to make sure that they don't see all 15 people, that what they see is the main speaker loud, they'll still be able to see, but you can spotlight that. The other thing, if you have upgraded your Zoom to 5.2.2, that edition will now allow you to pin people on your screen. So what I've said to my colleagues at the seminary is it's like a seating chart. You can, because most of us, if you've been on a call where there are more than 25 people, everybody is seen in a different order. The person who's hosting is first. And then, they're not in alphabetical order. They're not in, it's this kind of random thing. But now you can pin in a particular order so that you always see everybody in the same order. So that's a brand new feature that's nifty, keen, cool for folks who are trying to manage larger groups. I've got 25 in my community engaged discipleship class that meets on Saturday. And last week, having me on the screen bumped us off. So I had 2 screens. So it was like, okay, it's the first week of class. How am I making sure that I see everybody so I can begin to get names and faces together? But some are over here, but I can't tell who's really on the second and who's really on the first. And you're right, Chris, using multiple monitors is very helpful if you can do that. And if you're a Mac user, there's a app called Duet that allows you to use your iPad and as a second screen with your computer, which is really helpful. And it's a great tool to have. All right, what else? Yes, Beth.
Becky, I have I'm working with a couple of churches who are now looking at their safe place policies, their protection policies for children and vulnerable adults. And I'm just wondering if you know of a source for good, concise language that should be inserted into the policy about children on Zoom and Zoom classes with Sunday school teachers and things like that.
I think you want, I'm trying to, I don't have a specific place to send you to, but I'm going to make myself a note to do that and to get it back to Debbie, and she can get it out to you all. It's going to be Monday before I get to that, but I'll get to it.
That'd be helpful. It came up in our committee on shared ministry meeting yesterday, much because of Beth's initiative. So there are interested parties awaiting.
Yeah, I've put that down on my to-do list for Sunday.
And the other thing, Becky, the other thing we're looking for is good gender neutral or gender inclusive language for those policies. And also instruction for traveling with people who, you know.
Oh, that I can get. That I have lots of stuff for you. So let me pop that out again. Inclusive language, travel. Okay. I will say that you want to make sure that your policy includes very clear expectation that no recording will take place without explicit permission. And especially if there's a child or a youth or a vulnerable adult, their primary guardian, parent, responsible person has to be the one to give that permission. So you don't ever record without making it clear that that's happening. And if it's a minor or a vulnerable adult, you have that very clear permission. The same is true with screenshots. And that's the piece that you don't know. I mean, most of the time you can see the record button up in the corner, but screenshots are a different thing. And predators are very skilled at being able to take and manipulate pictures and photos and things like screenshots. So whatever your policy has in it needs to be explicit about the things that are not acceptable. And those are chief among them. I think it's also, I think Zoom learned, which is why now you don't get the option. You either have a waiting room or you have a passcode, because we learned early on that just putting a link out, so that's why you got a link to register, and that is built into Zoom. Does everybody know that? That you can choose, here, let me do it. Let's see, what's the best way to do that? Okay, so you can, oh yeah, I gotta do this. This is new too. 3 HDAN. When you go to set up a meeting, schedule a meeting, registration, if you click this, then when they click on this this link, they are taken to a registration site that Zoom works with, and you have to fill in your name and your email. And once you do that, then Zoom sends you the link to get into the meeting. And that's just another layer of protection, because folks who are way better than we are would just bomb and play porn on top of church. I mean, it was, you'd think, really, why are you doing this? But they did. So, so good questions. Thanks, Beth. Other questions? Debbie?
Not a question, just a welcome to John Bice.
Hi, John.
The wild dude at the bottom of the screen. John, will you just tell folks who you are, where you're connected, and Don't sing or anything. Just tell us who you are.
Oh, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
There he is.
Okay, good. Thanks for having me. Sorry I'm running late. But I'm from Fourth Presbyterian in Greenville, and I serve on the session, and I work with a CE there, and I teach adult ed, and I'm using Zoom, I guess, like everybody else, and so just always trying to learn, see how we can do this thing better.
Good. We're glad you're here, John. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to move us for a moment into some looking at curriculum that is a little bit more easily adapted to virtual teaching. And by doing that, I'm going to expose you to a brand new, you may know all about it. I did not know all about it. Was a new teaching tool for me, a new tech tool that I'm completely in love with. It's called Wakelet, W-A-K-E-L-E-T. And I'll show, I'll sign out so you can see. Yeah. I guess I won't. Yep, here we go. All right, so when you go to Wakelet.com, this is what you get, and it is absolutely free. I keep trying to figure out how they're sustaining this business model because it's completely free. And so I read, I actually watched an interview with the fellow who created it. And he said that right now, he said that time will come, but right now he's far more interested in getting this platform and making this available to folks. So I'm pretty impressed with him. But I also call this Pinterest for nerds. So the way it works is you sign up or you're like me who've already done that. And it works in terms of collections. So I have 32 of these puppies. So I am, what got me started was, for some odd reason, I am the person who's resourcing our Charlotte faculty on teaching technology. And so I wanted to figure out how I could give them access to certain pieces of information about different projects, and came across this. And what happened, so you create a collection. So that was, you can see, was my first collection. But I have everything. This is the one we're going to work with, curriculum during a time of pandemic. I have my class on community engaged discipleship. My worship and sacraments class is coming up this fall or next spring. So I've already got a Wakelet set up for that. I've got one that's for Zoom helps. Of course, you know, my mentor, because, you know, so you set up a collection, and then what you do is you begin to curate. And in this collection that I've curated for you all, I have come in and organized curriculum by children, youth, adults, and intergenerational. And so let's say I'm over here on, you know, okay, I was working on some things for class, and I really love Ubuntu, and love this quote by Desmond Tutu that says, you know, a person with Ubuntu is open and available to others, affirming of others, does not feel threatened. And so I'm like, okay, I know I want to use this, but I'm not ready yet to be specific. So I've installed an extension. Do you know what an extension is? Does everybody know what an extension is? So if you use Google, you can go over here and get to the web store, and they're free. And you can look up extensions, and it'll tell you all the different extensions that you can get. So I've put one up for Wakelet. So I'm doing my research, and all I have to do is click on my extension and wait. And then it brings me to all of my collections. And I say, oh, I want to make sure that I use that in community engaged discipleship. So I save it. And then when I go to my Wakelet collections, and I have, you can see that it's automatically saved there. And anytime I click on that title, that link, it takes me right back to the original source. One of the beautiful things about Wakelet is that you can put photos, movies, websites, text. I mean, you can get to any and all of it. So I've even created learning modules with it. So, and you can embed it. So I've embedded it into our learning management system, which is Blackboard. But they come here and it tells them, step 1, do this. And they can watch the video right there. They don't even have to, and see, then they just go right back to it. Here is a PDF of Howard Thurman's The Sound of the Genuine. So they don't have to go find it. I've already got it included here, and they read it.
Becky, can I ask you a quick question?
You sure can.
This is, you told me about this on the phone a month ago. It's even more amazing than you described. So you are giving them access to your Wakelet account in order?
No, that's a great question. So see right here where it says share?
Okay.
You can give them, and I'm going to give you all the link to my Curriculum in a Pandemic Wakelet. You won't be able to see any of my other Wakelets. You can only see the one whose code I am giving to you.
Gotcha.
So I just copy the code and I put it, in
like Google Drive share or something like that.
Yeah. I can put it in, I can share it on Facebook. Now, because I use Blackboard, I often use this copy embedded code. And what that does is I can show you right here. Clearly, faculty meeting today. Oh boy. So I had a department meeting this morning, and now I'm with you all, and then I go to faculty meeting. Here's this one. I used that this week. So the first week of my students' class, like, come on, Blackboard, let's move it along. This is their assignment this week. So they go to week 2. And then the learning module is right here. I created it in Wakelet. So this tells them what they do first step. Second step, and then I give them a little more instructions by typing. You can just type in it. Then I want them to look up the Westminster Dictionary. Don't give me that. I have to log in again. Okay, yeah. Institutional login. Well, we're not gonna, you'll see. So you can so then I've added another, I use Canva a lot, but you can do it without Canva. I just get a little excited about silly things. So this takes them directly to the digital reference sources. So this is for them to begin to think about what discipleship is. And I also want them start learning how to use the electronic and digital resources in the library. And I don't want them just going to any place and using any resource. I don't want them going to Lifeway. I don't want them going to, David C. Cook. I want them going to good academically sound resources. And so I've put a link in there, and they go and they go to do that, and they can do their research right there. Now you're thinking, why is she showing us this? Because we don't have Blackboard. Well, that's true. But you've got Advent coming up. What if you had a family Advent, weekly Advent spiritual experience, on the road to the manger? And you could you could create one of these wakelets where, today they read this scripture and they pray, and then the next day, so whatever it is you want them to do, you can create this so that they can work on that at any time. You don't have to be right there directing them. So that's what we call asynchronous learning. And so you can create all kinds of things that give families some agency where they don't have to be on the screen all the time. They can do it when the time works for them. And so you find that balance between synchronous and asynchronous, between, okay, it's kind of like, it's the old learning sitter model, but it's just ramped up with technology.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So how do you, or what are some of the best practices that you have found for yourself or in the community of how do you not end up going down the rabbit hole?
What do you mean rabbit hole?
Of like you were saying, creating things in Canva, and like there are things that you like to do, and you might start on one part, and then you're adding another piece, and then I have this board, and now I'm going to add this, and I could put all of these things in there. Like, how are there guiding questions that you ask yourself when you're creating curriculum or resources? Are there best practices that you use to check yourself and your focus before going down the rabbit hole of technology and things that we could assign, for our folks to, what they could engage with this and that, and how do you be centered?
Oh, yes. And I tell you, Lauren, I have to constantly fight myself because I get so excited about it. And I'm like, well, who wouldn't want to watch this video of Marian Wright Edelman? And, look, here's one on John Lewis. But, and maybe they should read, I'm horrible about that. But so one of the things that I make myself do is I put all of my ideas into a wakelet. But that is not the wakelet that I ultimately share with them. That's just all my ideas. And I don't do it in one setting. I generate all my ideas and then I put it away and I go, take a walk, or I go work on something else, or I come back to it the next day. But the most important thing that I do is I have a proposition statement for every project, every lesson that I do. And that is, a proposition statement has 3 phrases, 3 parts. It's, what do you want people to understand? Why is it important to their faith? And how will they live? How will they discern so that they can live differently? And that's really based on this new model that I've done on propositional teaching, and saying we've got to get away from behavioral objectives, goals and objectives. We've got to move into a discernment model of teaching, the kind of teaching that that changes people's lives, how they think, how they act, who they are at the core of their being. And so I start with those questions, and I know you've been with me enough in the PSCE group. If you're paying attention to the questions I have you all think about, it's those 3 questions. What is it that we need to understand? Why is it important that we understand it? And how are we going to think, act, and live differently because of that? So if I've got a clear proposition statement, that then guides what I put in there. So that yes, I might have 14 whats, but I've decided in my proposition statement about one what, one why, and one how. It's kind of like, and I started this when I was at PC with my students who wanted to put everything in the kitchen sink in their lesson plans. It's like an associate pastor who only gets to preach once every 6 weeks, and they think they have to put every single thing they have to say in that one sermon. And so this is like trying to go, you're going to have a chance some other time. So let's focus on the one what you want them to understand, one why they need to understand it, and get them to the place where they're connecting the dots between what they now understand and how it makes a difference in how they've lived their faith. So that helps me hone down. Now, I will tell you, I can spend hours on Canva making things pretty because, yeah, that's just because I'm strange like that. So let me, yes.
Ann Tedder has her hand raised.
Yeah, Ann, I can't see you.
She can't see.
So when you
now I can.
When you get it all honed down and you're getting ready to share it, like say for Advent or, for my class or whatever, what's the platform that goes out on? Is there a link you send out on email, or is it a Zoom? How do you send that out? Okay, here's the church-wide study for Advent.
Yep.
Click on it when you feel like it. What do you do?
Right. So what you do is you hit this share. So here's the let's pretend this is your Advent wakelet. And this is what I'm going to do for you all. I hit share, and for you guys, the easiest way is going to be for me to hit copy, and then I'm just going to paste it right there in the chat. So you could put it on your website, and what you want to do is ask your webmaster if they would rather embed it, which is what I showed you in Blackboard, or if you just do it by link. You can also do it with a QR code if folks are QR savvy. But the easiest way is to send them a link. If you do a family blog, you can either embed it in your blog, or you can put the link in your blog. And all you are going to have access to is this one wakelet that I have for you. You can tell, I've got 30 plus other wakelets, but you won't be able to see those unless I make them completely visible. So I can choose, all right, come on. Oh, edit, okay. So I can choose if I want this private, or if I want this public, or if I want you to be able to collaborate and add or take away, which I rarely do with students, or if you can just access and use it. And what you do once you get into Wakelet is you have to put it in, edit mode. So, so edit collection. So when you're creating it, you edit collection, and you choose if it's this unlisted means if you have a link, you can see it. I have plenty that are private, but I can also choose to collaborate, and I've got, and now they have this marvelous piece here, with, where is it? Why am I not seeing it? Let me go back there. That's why. Now they have this thing called spaces, and you can see that my spaces has all of the wakelets that are related to one class. So if I had 4 wakelets for the 4 weeks of Advent, I'd create a space that said Advent 2020, and I'd put all 4 wakelets in it. So it's just, that's an organizational thing. That's how my mind works. One of the other things I love about Wakelet is, oh, here, this will show you. So here's where you add, you can either upload your own image, which is where I get in trouble with Canva, or you can choose from their free library of pictures. But here are all of these things. So if there's a video on YouTube that you want them to watch, you click paste URL, copy it, paste it here, or you use your extension. If I want to give instructions, I can just type here using the text piece. YouTube videos can be embedded, tweets, you can bookmark. Here's where you can add photos. Here's where you upload your PDFs. And here, if you have things on Google Drive, you can access it there. And then here's Flipgrid. I'm having so much fun with Flipgrid, not as much as with Wakelet, but you can start recording. I hit record, it's going to count down, and then I sit here and I tell you what I'm thinking, and I want you to, this is week 1 of Advent, and then when I'm done, I click, and oh, if I want to be quirky, you know, I can do filters, I can give myself some crazy, I can do frames, because, you know, blah, blah. So, and then you just go next. And then I sit here and I tell you what I'm thinking, and here's blah, blah, blah. I take a selfie, and then it posts. It's all free. So you can actually talk to them. And if you give them collaboration rights, they can add theirs. The way in which I'm getting my 25 people to tell me who they are in my first class is this week, because we're not together, I've asked them to make a short video that tells me, and we did call stories this week, but they've come in here and they've done, you know, here's Sarah Diane, who's a hoot.
Hey y'all, my name is Sarah Diane. I live in Charlotte. I'm not from here. I'm Presbyterian, PCUSA, and my 3 favorite words are melancholy, because I like that it means the same way it sounds. I think there's something beautiful about that. I like the word emphatic, because I have been described as very emphatic.
Yeah, because none of us knew that. So, you know, these are just quick things you can do with these free pieces. So I want to make sure that I'm looking at our time. Yeah.
How long is that little video? How long can you record?
Oh, that's such a good question. You get to set it. So sometimes I only give them like a minute. Sometimes I give them, here's add a topic. This is what we'll do. Sometimes I give them 1 minute and 30 seconds. You can give them up to 10 minutes. And that's a little better. Do y'all know VoiceThread? Okay, that's something else, but that's not for today. We can't get into VoiceThread at this point. But if you want to talk about VoiceThread, and you can, they can go on and on with VoiceThread. It's kind of like stop. You know, I've had a student who's recorded the maximum amount of time and then come back and started a second one. I'm like, yeah, no, don't do that. You're not doing that. Stop it. So let me show you for a moment. I want to make sure you know about a few pieces of curriculum that are coming out Does everybody know about StoryPath? Let me see here. I see yeses. Okay, no, I got one that's no. So StoryPath is a site that Union Seminary has sponsored. It's been out of the Richmond campus. It's moving to the Charlotte campus. And I have a proposal that we add curriculum and that we make curriculum available from Union Seminary to the public. Vacation Bible School curriculum, different short-term sessions curricula, a curriculum that is created that's lectionary based, that is around the children's literature. So StoryPath is like a clearinghouse for children and adolescent literature that really teaches adults as well. And you can look it up by scripture index. So you could go to, Galatians 3. You can look it up by lectionary text. You can look it up by theme index. And each one of these has the book. It has a description of the book. It tells about the literary elements, gives you kind of a theological synopsis, and then questions that you can give to parents, that parents can use books like they have on their shelves, like Horton Hears a Who, to begin to nurture the spiritual and faith life of children, youth, and adults. So, so that is StoryPath, and you can find the link there. Here is a sample of the lesson plan that I am asking us to begin to get in the curriculum business related to this. So you can see there's a summary of the children's book, kind of some rituals. This can be used as a children's, like if folks who still do children's church and take children out during the sermon, it can be done there. It can be done on a Wednesday night. It could easily be done on a Zoom, because the story, the scripture, this is lectionary based, but the scripture has been, it has been written up for you in story form that's more accessible for children, not just, let me read you this text, but let me tell you the story. And then there's then it's connected to the children's book that matches, that helps enhance the scripture, and questions for the children's book, questions from the scripture, and then a proclamation point from, that helps the teacher. It's not to be read to the children, but it gives the teacher some meat to answer questions, and then a prayer. So hoping that that will go someplace. Do you know that Cokesbury has this new curriculum coming out called Celebrate Wonder? It's got some elements of godly play, but it's gotten rid of the bad parts of godly play, where you have to be invited to the room where God is. And, we don't look at children in the eye, and, all that stuff that makes me cringe about godly play. But it's brand new, it's coming out. And one of the things I like about it is it's got a digital class pack. So they've been some very intentional about looking at how do we do this. We've got some youth pieces here. Do you know about the new Outlook curriculum? So the Presbyterian Outlook is putting a new adult curriculum out. It will likely, what is today? So I think it's going to drop and be available for folks to download within 10 days. So certainly before 1st of October. We're about a month behind in getting this done, or we're not behind because we set our own deadline. Nobody set the deadline for us. But it's a 6-week session. This will be available for the fall. There'll be a second 6-week unit available in January. And then next year, we'll put out 2 more units. As long as we can find grant money, we'll keep turning them out. And as long as not just grant money, but also find it helpful. We've picked one word or concept for each week So we're doing kind of God and the Imago Dei and Covenant and Grace, very teacher-friendly lesson plans. And each one will have a 6 to 9 minute video that does not take the place of teaching, but augments teaching. And so what will happen is in every video, there's a scholar who's talking about whatever the concept is. So Brian Blunt talks about God for 4 minutes. I could listen to him talk about God for 40 hours. Lib Caldwell talks about grace. Charlene Jen is talking about Christian community. I mean, this is just marvelous. And then each video has a practitioner, a pastor or an educator who talks about the same concept. And then the third segment of the video is a lay leader who talks about it. And so the total will be about, 6 to 9 minutes. So we're going to have to do a lot of editing on some of these. And that'll be available in these lessons. So this will be completely downloadable, including the video. It has graduated pricing. So if you're a congregation above 200, we're asking $45 for all 6 weeks, including the videos. And you can use that as often and as many places as you want to use it. If you're a congregation under 200, we are suggesting $30. But if your budget in your church is not, if that's just beyond your price point, then we're just asking that you contribute what you can contribute. And we'll let this connectional church help support one another. Do you know Enlightened Films? Okay, this is Scott Galloway. And again, you'll be able to come in here and listen to them talk about it. But this is a series of professionally produced videos that are 5 to 7 minutes, most of them. They are Reformed. They're based on Reformed theology. They're lectionary based. It's a subscription. But Scott is a lay leader at Davidson Presbyterian Church. He's assembled a kind of all-star team of Tom Long and John Kirkendall and some others. And pastors are using it in their sermons. They're using it as discussion starters. There are discussion questions that are at the end of each, that are included with each video, but they're not a lesson. Someday I'll get to that. Then want to remind you that Kerygma and Disciple all have DVD curricula, as does Living the Question, which is one of my favorites. The Wired Word is a great kind of digital virtual teaching resource. Union has a video, a DVD that's available on site. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to get it anywhere. And there's a downloadable discussion guide, so a lesson plan. This one's on American Presbyterian church history. We have one on Christian practices that I'm talking with our communications guy to see if we could put that out there and make that available as well. You can work your way through the rest of these. And then for families, I don't know if you take the Presbyterian Outlook, but there's a weekly column in the Presbyterian Outlook that's family faith formation at home. It is lectionary based. It always has it has a ritual. Oh, you're debugging it? Okay, we'll get back to you. But there are archives, so you can go back. The column started in March, and there's a same ritual each week, and then there's reading of the scripture. The link to the scripture is in it, embedded in it, so you can just get right to both the NRSV and the CEB. You read it twice. Then there's usually some sort of media piece. So there's, one week it was Christians in Malaysia singing a song that they had put all together. One week, often you'll see Steve Hartman on the road, kind of episodes from that. Or this week's is the children's book, It's Not Fair. And it's, you know, because this week's passage is the landowner who gives everybody the same wage, no matter what time they went out to the fields. And, you know, that's just not fair. So, and then there are questions about that help us begin to get deeper into what does this mean. And then there are teaching points for the teacher, and then there's a way to kind of engage it. Again, there are no crafts. Just let me be clear. There are no crafts. I think there is a weekly column in Outlook that does have crafts. That is a traditional Sunday school children's more traditional thing, but I'm not included crafts. I have at times used art, ask you to look at art and to engage it through art and through drama and those kinds of things. And then, of course, some more intergenerational stuff from there. So let me quit screen sharing. I've kept you 4 minutes past the time. Oh, Allison, thank you. I'm so glad that you found them helpful.
Well, you didn't say that you wrote them.
Well, I know, but I don't, you know, that's all right. Jenna.
I have a question.
Yep.
A simple question, I think. I hope. I'm starting the Growing in God's Love this Sunday by Zoom, and then also the take-home packets for those who don't wish to join me on Zoom, which are many. So, but for those who do join me, so I've recorded myself reading the story for the take-home people. But on Zoom, after hearing what you said today, instead of showing them the video of me reading, I want to read to them.
Good.
But how is the best way to do this where I can engage with them, they can see the picture, I can see the words, and all at the same time?
Here's my favorite way to do it. As long as you own the book and you do not put it out there for profit. If you have a cell phone,
take pictures of it.
Take a picture of each of the pictures in the book, put each picture, each page into a PowerPoint, and share your screen and show the PowerPoint and have yourself side by side and show the story as you're reading it, and they can see the pictures. It's so much better than trying to hold the book up and look down and flip back. You know, just, I always put mine on PowerPoint and use it that way.
So it'll be my face on half the screen in the book,
the
pages on the other half.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And Jenna, if you don't know how to do that, your colleague down the hall knows how to do it because it was a requirement in her undergraduate.
I think I've got PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
You'd be surprised how many of my students are like, I had a student who is an attorney who dropped my methods of teaching class, my models of teaching class, because she didn't want to learn how to do PowerPoint. So yeah, I don't take anything for granted anymore. All right. What else can I help you with?
Anne said, are you sharing all these resources with us?
I can't hear you.
Oh.
I just typed in my question, but all those resources that you just screened through, are you
That's all in Wakelet? You have access to everything in Wakelet.
So she just gave us the link, Anne, in the chat box.
Look in the chat box.
And I go in there and I just I don't have to have a secret password.
Nope, you click on that wakelet, you copy that wakelet and put it in your browser. It'll take you to where I was, and you can click on every one of those pieces of curricula, and it will take you directly to that website.
Well, thank you. I really think I've gotten my money's worth out of this webinar today.
Well, since it was free, I hope so.
That is so generous, and thank you so much.
You're welcome. And y'all know how to get a hold of me. I'm not too far away, virtually or physically, so.
And Ann, I saved the link as well. The folks that couldn't join us have all, Donna Foster couldn't jump in, and Noel Reed and Trish Gwynn, and they're all asking if we're recording and if we'll save. And so I'll just send that link out to the whole group. I'll have the link to the webinar too, if you want to go back and look at yourself and hear Becky's wisdom once again.
I don't know about wisdom.
Thank you.
Well, every time I think I've heard you teach, and there's not, what else could I learn from Becky Davis? And I always, it's never one thing, it's never two things. And thank you for reminding us about the new propositional model, because you shared that in a few workshops recently. And it's good to be reminded of what I knew that I forgot, because I think that's a great coach approach to teaching and for preaching as well.
Oh, yes. It started out as a preaching piece that I learned, that Dr. Cannon learned from her preaching professor, and then that she adapted for the academic classroom, and then I adapted for teaching. And I'm working on so that Opening Doors to Discipleship, which is being completely revamped, which is out of APSE and the denomination, will have a whole module on proposition teaching, because I'm writing that module. So so there'll be ways to do that. And if I can ever elbow enough space, I'll get it in a book, but that's not going to be yet.
Well, I hope you will allow us to invite you into our Zoom world again. And
absolutely.
Yeah, this is lovely. And I'll let the group here in Foothills decide what it is that they need or want next. But I have a feeling you'll be hearing from us again. And y'all don't know this, but I called Becky about something totally not about this subject. I don't remember what it was actually. And then we just got to chitting and chatting, and she told me what she was up to, and I said, well, we need you to do that in Foothills Presbytery. So thank you so much for making time very last minute. We got it on the calendar, and it's just been great. So thank you.
You're welcome. You know, I enjoy being with folks who are in congregations doing this kind of work. Gives me lots of life-giving experience. So thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you.
All right.